We did object.
Why did you not ask for a recorded vote?
Did they not respond to the
There was,
objection on the floor?
no, hold on. There was a consent request. We objected. Those making clear that we had concerns with isolating ICE and Border Patrol. There was a request for a voice vote. Some of us said no. Some said yes. Ayes had it, and we let it go by voice vote.
Why not ask for a recorded vote?
I gave-
Recorded vote then if you disagree with the chair's decision.
I didn't disagree with the chair's decision. I gave a speech on the floor where I expressed our genuine belief that we needed to make sure that we're funding those elements of Department of Homeland Security that are lacking funding because of our Democratic colleagues, and that we were, frustrated that this is isolating ICE and Border Patrol. That's been consistent. But we're working to get that done with what we did on the reconciliation package last night to end run effectively the Democrats to be able to fund ICE and Border Patrol for the remaining 3 years of the president's term. So that's what we're effectively doing. Again, this is not how we should be doing it. We were very clear about that. But at some point here, the vote's going to happen. That vote was going to pass if there was a suspension vote. So we agreed to let it go by voice vote.
On tonight's extension that's going to be coming to the floor here shortly, do you think that you...
Wait, hold on. I'll come. Because we got the budget passed through last night. So once you got the budget passed through, we know that we've got the ability to get the reconciliation done to be able to get ICE and Border Patrol done for 3 years. So by getting the budget in process, that gets us comfort to be able to move forward. That was always the issue. Obviously, some of us, if there was a vote, I would have voted no. But we weren't going to win that vote, so we decided to go ahead and let it go by voice.
On 5-6 extension that's about to come over the Senate, 45 days or however long,
Yeah.
do you expect voice vote again? Do you expect a recorded vote, or do you think you'll...
I think there's going to have to be a recorded vote for positive move over here, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Should this have taken 76 days?
No, talk to Democrats about that. They're the ones that have been blocking funding for ICE and Border Patrol and the rest of DHS for 76 days.
House could have done
And the
this
fact,
2 weeks ago.
no, we look, last night we got the reconciliation package through, which was actually fundamental to ensure that Border Patrol and ICE are getting funded. Talk to the Democrats about why they're leaving ICE and Border Patrol stranded while the American people are the ones being attacked. That's the reality. And it's Democrats that have been doing this. We've been trying to do it the right way, and it's Democrats that are setting the precedent for taking out ICE and Border Patrol out of the Homeland Security funding. By the way, two can play at that game. So they're setting a precedent for how this is going to play out from now on. If we want to fund government by reconciliation, then we're welcome to do it. That's what Democrats are doing. Talk to Harry Reid about how the filibuster worked out for him on judges.
Chip, what's your message to those ICE agents who see this?
Afternoon, everybody. Despite unrelenting predictions from many of you today in the press that we would fail this week, we did exactly the opposite. I'm really glad to tell you that House Republicans pulled together and delivered some major pieces of legislation and huge priorities for the country in the last few days. Let me give you a couple of examples. We passed the Farm Bill, as you know, a major achievement, delivering real relief and certainty for our rural America and for all Americans. This is the first time Congress has done that since 2018. Been quite a while, but we got it done. We've also made certain that the House is going to be able to have an up or down vote on a date certain on the E-15 issue, which is, is a big priority for a lot of our members here in the chamber. And most importantly of all the things we got done this week, we got the budget resolution passed. This is very, very important because that will ensure that border security and immigration enforcement will continue today and well into the future, despite Democrat attempts to reopen our borders and protect criminal illegal aliens from removal. The net result of passing our reconciliation bill is that ICE and CBP are funded for 3 years. Democrats got absolutely nothing for their political charade and shenanigans out of that. We repeatedly offered in good faith, I want to point out, remind everybody, to negotiate on funding these agencies, but ultimately the sad and actually shocking truth is there's not a Democrat in the House or the Senate that believes border security and immigration enforcement should exist at all. By word and deed, Democrats have made clear their desire to defund both of those critical functions of our government. We also passed the FISA reauthorization to ensure that the administration is armed with the best possible intelligence to continue eliminating terrorists and defending our homeland. We pray that the Senate can now pass our FISA bill as quickly as possible, and they're deliberating over that right now. Now, I just want to say that sometimes the process around here is cumbersome. That's the way this works, but in spite of our razor-thin, historically small majority, House Republicans continue to deliver for the American people. We will continue to do that for the remainder of the year, And that is a large reason why we are going to win the midterms so that the grown-ups can stay in charge here. Take a few questions.
Isn't this a solution on DHS that could have been passed days or weeks ago? Why did it take this long?
It could, and here's why. You heard me trash the bill when it came over the first time because it literally was drafted in the middle of the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning when they came up with the final language, and it was haphazardly drafted. And what it would do is, of course, orphan and leave out immigration enforcement and Border Patrol. If you might remember, in 2024, the #1 issue in the election was securing that border. House Republicans did it. The Trump administration, the president did that. And Democrats are upset about it. So they wanted to leave that out. They wanted to orphan these 2 critical agencies that are under the umbrella of Homeland Security. I remind everybody on the Hill all the time, Department of Homeland Security is the 3rd largest department of the federal government. It has critical responsibilities. FEMA and the Secret Service and TSA and all these other agencies. But the Democrats said, we'll do some of that, but we're not going to fund border security and we're not going to fund immigration enforcement. That's absurd, and we threw a fit, and we had to. We held the Homeland bill, the underlying funding bill, because we had to ensure that they could not isolate and eliminate those 2 critical agencies. We are getting those done now. We passed the resolution first. That was critically important for us to do to ensure that we're going to protect the Homeland, even though Democrats are unwilling to do it. So now that that box is checked, we're allowed then to proceed and go through with the rest of it. This will relieve pressure from the Department of Homeland Security. Secretary Mullen, who I've spoken to in the last couple of hours, will be greatly relieved. The President will, the administration will. We were not going to have lines at TSA. Everybody will get their paychecks now. We'll get moving forward. And then we will finish the work and finally get, again, for 3 years, with no crazy Democrat reforms, we will fund Border Patrol and immigration enforcement as soon as we return for the work session when that bill is
On
finalized.
FISA, Mr. Speaker, what do you anticipate from the Senate? And are you concerned that whatever the Senate sends over might be a problem over here?
I'm not concerned. I hope that they're going to do the right thing. Look, we sent over a reauthorization that was with minor reforms and with the anti-CBDC measure on it. These are very simple things that the vast majority of Congress agrees with, and they should get it done. They're running out of time. As you know, it will expire tonight, the end of today. And so we're calling on them to do the job, pass the House's bill, and get this done. Check the last box.
They're not going to take the House with them.
Well, we're going to see. They don't seem to have another alternative. We'll find out how that works.
Administration used yesterday with the Speaker broken promise. Can you kind of explain what that was about? And
I don't know who you're quoting. Okay, so look, they often analogize legislating to making sausage. You don't want to see it made. And sometimes it's an ugly process. Sometimes it's a long process. I've never broken my word to a single person in this building. Nobody can tell you they can. There was a lot of emotion and frustration yesterday because sometimes when you have a small margin, as we do, we're currently working on a 1-vote razor-thin margin because of absences and the rest. And people have different ideas, different priorities about very contentious pieces of legislation. The equations that we solved on legislation this week were virtually impossible. Many of you said it couldn't be done. But we got it done because ultimately we just use patience and frankly prayer. We get a lot of people together and we listen to their concerns and we try to get the disparate priorities handled. I've never asked a colleague in the Republican Party ever to violate a core principle, but sometimes we have to give up on our preferences because we are in a large body. On some of these bills, some of the ones that I just named for you, they're so complicated and so complex that you literally had irreconcilable demands on either side of the House Republican conference. And so it takes a long time to work through that and get people to consensus. But we do that patiently, we do as we must, and we ultimately deliver. Don't doubt the House Republican majority. We always deliver for the American people. We did it again, in spite of the challenges, and we continue to do that.
Mr. Speaker, this is the